Good morning, we're Jacob and Jenny and we have a ride in Johannesburg, South Africa.
We're gonna spend the next day and a half to 2 days exploring as much as we can in this huge, sprawling city.
So this morning to do a tour around town, we're doing a hop-on, hop-off bus, which we've never done before. We always thought it was kind of a little too touristy, but to get to a lot of the places in the city, we need to go along the same route. So we figured we'd take the hop-on, hop-off bus route and then kind of get to where we need to go.
So the first part of our hop-on, hop-off bus ride went through the very lush, green, forested northern suburbs of Johannesburg. It was such a joy to kind of go through that area, full of parks and just trees everywhere.
I see now why they recommended wearing a hat. They recommended wearing a hat and I was like, why? But we are completely uncovered.
So our first stop on our hop-on, hop-off bus tour is here at Constitution Hill, which is a complex of the old prisons that unjustly held thousands and thousands of mainly black South Africans in the area that didn't have the rights at that time to even just do normal human things like go down the street when they didn't have a special pass to do that. So it's a pretty emotional place.
It's split up into different areas. Number 4 is where the black male prisoners were kept. There's also an area where the white male prisoners were kept, and then the female prisoners were kept. So we just finished touring the number 4 area of the prison, and it's a heavy subject. When you're walking through, you can definitely, and they describe everything to you on signs, but you can just tell just how, dimly lit everything is, how crowded it is. It definitely just kind of gives you like a sinking feeling, stomach feeling, and you can see like some of the crimes that people came here for were minor things, or just like things that at the time it was just like the injustice of the society at the time. And so it's hard to see that this is the conditions people were kept when they were just really trying to fight for their freedom.
So not only is Constitution Hill just a somber reminder of how all the locals' rights were so unjustly taken, this is also a place of hope. They had taken one of the old structures here where people used to await trial. They demolished that and took the bricks and now use those bricks to develop the new constitutional court. So this is where they are now given the rights that they had been taken away before. So it's really a great sense of kind of to see the progress and where they want to be as a country.
So we finished up here at Constitution Hill. We had to go quickly because on the hop-on, hop-off bus schedule is pretty strict. There is an option for a guided tour, and if we had had more time, we definitely would have liked to do that, but we do have more things that we want to see around town, so we had to get going. So one of the nice things about using the hop-on, hop-off bus to get around an area is that you get to learn about the history of, wherever you're exploring with the audio guide that they have as you go. You just plug into the side of the bus and you get to hear more about the history of the area. So we got to see the downtown area of Johannesburg. I'm really impressed about whoever drives this because the roads are super narrow. And we're also headed to the south part of the city so that we can get to our next stop. So the other main stop that we wanted to make sure we got to today was the Apartheid Museum. We just finished up in there. You aren't allowed to take pictures or videos in there, so we weren't able to show you any of that, but I definitely recommend coming. You'll get a very thorough history of South Africa and how apartheid came to be and how it was toppled. It took us about 2 hours to get through. It's very emotional. It really makes you realize kind of how much people really fought for their freedom, and how, it really goes into like very literally showing you how it happened, what happened, and it definitely just, it'll take a lot out of you, but I think it's a very important stop to see. So yesterday we spent a lot of time at the Apartheid Museum, so we ended up missing all of the rest of the hop-on hop-off bus tours. But this morning we're really excited to do a tour of the Soweto area of town. But first we just needed a little coffee to get us going because we're up bright and early on our last day here in Johannesburg.
So the Soweto neighborhood is short for the southwestern townships. And the townships are where, during the apartheid regime, the government forced the black citizens to live in the townships. They weren't allowed to go into the city unless they were going there for work. Soweto is also really well known for a lot of the years of the freedom movement to abolish apartheid. So you have Nelson Mandela, his house is just down the street from Desmond Tutu's, and then it's also the place where the uprising was from the schools that really started the ball rolling to ending apartheid.
So our first stop today is the Hector Peterson Square, and this area is a memorial to the children, honestly children, who fought for equal and better education during the apartheid regime. They were limiting the amount of spending they were giving to the children here. They were also forcing them to learn in languages that weren't their own, and so they were really trying to fight for equal and equitable education here. And so this is a memorial to the child that was actually shot by one of the police officers. We also went to a few more locations during our tour. We went to, after the Hector Peterson Square, we went to the Mandela House. So we went through the house that Nelson Mandela lived in while he was here in Soweto. It seemed like as an adult more so than his family, so you got to see the inside of actually what one of those houses looked like. There was also a lot of memorial pieces. We also walked quite a ways to the Orlando Tower. So we did take a cab on the way there, but we got to see the famous two towers. It used to be cooling towers and they're now more of like a recreation area. We actually did see somebody bungee jump off the top of the towers, or between the towers. Oh, how do we get back up? Ooh, I do not see the appeal of jumping off of this. It looks scary. It's very high up. And then we walked through the area for quite a while. We walked for about 2 miles. We're now having our lunch, and it's like the biggest sandwich I've ever seen, with fries, cheese, meat, and then the rest of like a stuffed piece of bread on it. I don't know how to eat it, it's so big. Still not sure how to eat this. Ooh, it was hearty. I feel like it reminds me of like college drunk food. Very filling and greasy.
The sausage is nice. That's the only thing I got in this bite though.
Our tour guide said was popular with the kids, like kind of the young people here, and I could see that. And then our last stop was to try some local beer. So Soweto Gold is one of the local beers here, brewed right here in Soweto, and we got to try that. The bottles are huge, so Jacob and I split, but yeah, it was a great way to end the tour.
Well, that's all we have in Johannesburg. We barely scratched the surface of this huge city. If you like this, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to see our next videos. But until then,
bye.